And welcome back to Newswatch. Today we've gathered the 3 GOP candidates running for South Carolina Attorney General to discuss the issues this morning. And now it's time for the candidates to answer your questions. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I had one other question for all 3 candidates. The current Attorney General is running for governor, of course. He filed a lawsuit against the new health care law saying it tramples on states' rights. He's specifically talking about the public mandate. He says you cannot force Americans to buy something that they do not want to buy. In your legal opinion, not your political opinion, but your legal opinion, does he have a chance to win this? Mr. Wilson, why don't you take that first?
Well, I don't think it's he. I think it's going to be one of us, because this is something that's going to go beyond his administration at the Attorney General's office. I personally believe that we do have I legally believe that we have a legitimate challenge to this unconstitutional mandate that people go buy health insurance. I do think it's there. Do I think it's going to be a tough fight? Absolutely. But I think it's a fight worth fighting. You know, people ask me all the time, can we afford to fight the federal government on this unfunded mandate with the health care bill? And I say, can we afford not to? So absolutely, I believe that it is unconstitutional, and I believe that we can win it.
Okay. Mr. Lord, in your legal opinion, can this fight be won?
I think that the individual mandate section of the bill does have a chance if the Supreme Court continues to go in a direction that Chief Justice Roberts has been taking the court. I agree with Alan. It's going to be an uphill battle, but there is precedent and a direction in the court that could invalidate the individual mandate.
Mr. Bolches?
You know, I believe that the law is on our side. The real question is whether the judges will be on our side, and I don't have quite the confidence, and maybe that's what Leighton was getting at. I'm not sure I have the confidence that the Supreme Court or the federal judges that will hear the case will necessarily be on our side. I believe the law is clear.
So collectively, if you win, this is a fight that all 3 of you would continue?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right, let's get to the viewer questions here this morning. We heard from Mary Waters, and she is asking, when taking the South Carolina bar, did you pass on the first time? If not, how many times did it take for you to pass the bar? Mr. Lord?
First time.
First time.
First time.
First time.
I pass on the second.
Second try. Okay, that was quick. Let's move on to the next question. This one is from another viewer, Mark Hardy. He asked the question, because complex civil law issues such as water rights and port issues, as well as complex issues regarding the recruitment of major corporations, what are each candidate's qualifications to handle these matters? Mr. Bolches.
You know, in addition to spending almost 10 years working as a prosecutor, I have spent the last 10 years working in the private sector, both as a private attorney and in the corporate sector. So I believe, in terms of my opponents, I have a broader view and experience in all of those areas of the government. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, on the civil side, I spent time in private practice representing small businesses, large corporations, individuals, and I've worked for a major corporation, so I understand the role that government plays and the role that it should not play in the regulation of business.
Okay. Mr. Lord?
I have practiced civil litigation. I've taken cases all the way to the South Carolina Supreme Court. As managing partner Nixon Pruitt, I've managed some of the largest civil litigation in the state, including one of the largest antitrust suits in the state's history. And finally, in business recruitment, that's what I do. I represented Boeing, I helped with the Honda deal, many others.
Mr. Wilson?
I'm a former assistant solicitor, former assistant attorney general. I've prosecuted violent crime, white-collar crime, public corruption, domestic violence, driving under the influence, securities fraud, identity fraud, computer fraud, sex abuse, child abuse, any number of kind of crimes that are out there. I've prosecuted drug trafficking. I've done it at the solicitor's office and at the attorney general's office. I've also, in the last year, I've been working with a civil litigation firm with Willoughby and Hafer, where I've represented small business as well as large business. Prior to that, I was an intelligence analyst with the Drug Enforcement Administration, so I worked with federal law enforcement, and also worked as a judicial law clerk for the late Judge Mark Westbrook.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, why don't you take the next question? This is from Mary Jane Watson. Why is it important for the South Carolina Attorney General to have been a prosecutor?
Well, first off, that's in our state constitution. The state constitution mandates under Article 5, Section 24 that the Attorney General is the state's chief prosecutor. There has not been an Attorney General in over 70 years. that has not had some form of prosecution experience. 80% of the office delves into criminal issues, whether it be prosecution, statewide grand jury, capital litigation, et cetera. There are so many parts of this office that deal with crime. The most important role of the Attorney General is to protect people and their families. I'm happy to say that over 30 sheriffs, current and retired, have endorsed me for Attorney General because they recognize that as someone who has worked hand in hand in the trenches, the local counties with the local law enforcement and also with the local solicitors' offices, that I can help them keep the people of South Carolina safe. So it is vitally important that the Attorney General have been a former prosecutor, because before you can understand what people are doing in the trenches, if you've never been in the trenches handling those law enforcement issues, how can you empathize? How can you understand the needs that need to be met if you've never been there yourself? And that's why it's important for the Attorney General to have been a prosecutor.
Okay, time's up. Mr. Lord, same question.
I don't think it's important. And when I was recruited to run for this office, I was recruited by former U.S. attorneys and sitting solicitors to do it. When the Constitution wrote in 1895 that the Attorney General was the chief prosecutor, there weren't 16 solicitors. The problem is defining the role of the Attorney General against the 16 solicitors. I'm doing this because I want to be a partner with the solicitors. I don't want to be their boss. I don't want to tell them what to do. I want to help them be the front lines of criminal justice. Also, the model that I'm trying to bring forward is the model used in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. 3 attorney generals who have never prosecuted and are very successful.
Mr. Bolches.
You know, I've got to disagree with Leighton 100%. First of all, the Constitution states the Attorney General is the state's chief prosecutor. But the theory that we would have an elected, the theory that we would not have an elected official or any oversight for our public safety system and for prosecution and the criminal justice system as a whole, I think that would be a very dangerous theory to operate a government under. Public safety is the #1 priority of government. I've prosecuted almost 1,000 criminals in South Carolina over the 10 years that I worked as a prosecutor. You know, I know Alan gave a laundry list of cases he's prosecuted. I've done them all. And I think it would be dangerous to have an Attorney General who didn't understand and recognize that that was a priority.
You sure can. 30 seconds.
We are #1 in violent crime. The criminal justice statistics in Texas are better than ours. The definition of insanity is do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. We need to do things differently in South Carolina. I want to bring a different model to this office, and I want to attack head-on the problems that we have in our criminal justice system. Solicitors, former U.S. attorneys are supporting me because they believe my vision will make South Carolina safer. I will hire former prosecutors. There will be a lot. They're still working for the Attorney General's office. I don't understand how to...
That's 30
okay.
seconds. But I just wanted to get this straight. Mr. Bolches and Mr. Wilson, are you saying that because of the statute in the state constitution, does that disqualify Mr. Lord from running for the office? Or is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that it makes him less qualified than I am.
Just less qualified. The same thing with you, Mr. Wilson?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's very important that we have a prosecutor, because before you can partner with people in law enforcement and help them, you've got to understand what their needs are and how they provide that service to their community. If you've never been a prosecutor or in law enforcement, you can't understand. You just can't.
And Mr. Lord, I'll just give you the last word in this.
Sure.
Go ahead.
And I would just say, look to North Carolina. Look to Texas. Their systems are working. They're safer states to live in.
Okay. All right, we're going to end it right there. We're going to come back when Newswatch returns. The candidates will get to ask questions of each other. Stay with us.